सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Amrita. Before we get on with today's video, do subscribe to my channel and press the bell button. In our previous episode, we saw how the Rajasuya Yajna was performed. One major event that happened during the Rajasuya Yajna was that the palace that the Pandavas lived at in Indraprastha was full of magic and was full of Maya. The entire palace was full of illusions, and it was definitely difficult for the normal person to come and adapt to that place. Duryodhana was also invited for the Rajasuya Yajna. So when he came to the palace at that time, he was awestruck by its extraordinary beauty, and as usual he was so jealous of the Pandavas that he started feeling insecure. At that time he saw there was a kind of reflection and he thought it to be a mirror, but it actually turned out to be water, and he slipped and he fell down accidentally. Draupadi was seeing the whole thing from her balcony, and she saw that and she immediately could not control her laughter. So she made fun of Duryodhana and told that the son of the blind king is also blind, and she started laughing. Due to this, Duryodhana felt humongously humiliated. He felt so insulted. He was so angry and he just walked away. So he wanted to take revenge on Draupadi for insulting him. And he wanted to take revenge on the Pandavas for the envy, for the jealousy that he had had for all these years. So he consulted his uncle Shakuni and asked if they could wage a war against them. Shakuni was very, very brilliant enough, and he advised Yudhishthira that a war would not work since he could not match the war capabilities of the Pandavas and Arjuna. Instead, they should move forward in a more cunning way. So Shakuni advised Duryodhana to invite the Pandavas over for a game of dice. But of course, Duryodhana did not tell about the game of dice to his father. Instead, he sent Dhritarashtra to invite the Pandavas over for a feast and then for some fun time that the brothers could have together. So the minister Sanjay was sent to Indraprastha to invite the Pandavas. So the Pandavas along with Kunti and Draupadi were invited to Hastinapur. Yudhishthira was so happy. He always wanted to unite with Duryodhana. So he did not think about anything, immediately accepted the invitation. So he, along with his brothers, his wife and his mother, went to Hastinapur. They had a very grand welcome. At that point of time, Duryodhana very casually suggested that they should play the game of dice just for fun. The Pandava brothers kind of felt something very fishy about it, but Yudhishthira had a weakness. He was addicted to the game of dice, so he immediately agreed and decided to play against Duryodhana. Duryodhana said he didn't know the rules of the game, so on behalf of Duryodhana, his uncle Shakuni would play. Now the brothers were taken back. They started thinking, they started wondering if something could be wrong. But again, Yudhishthira kind of trusted and they started to play. Initially, Shakuni let Yudhishthira win a number of games so that he would gain confidence and he would start placing more bets and in turn start losing more. So as the game started moving forward, Yudhishthira completely lost one by one. He kept his jewels. At one point of time, he even lost his kingdom. Still, the game went on. Shakuni asked Yudhishthira to bet his brothers and play for them. Eventually, Yudhishthira lost that, and he, along with his brothers, became slaves to Duryodhana. There was one final bet that Shakuni planned, and that was Draupadi, to bet on their wife. Now that was a very, very bad step that Duryodhana took. Now Yudhishthira lost that also, and Draupadi was also declared as their slave. Now Duryodhana sent one of the servants to go bring Draupadi to that place where the game of dice was happening. She refused to come. So at that time, he sent his brother Dushasana to bring Draupadi. Dushasana held her by her hair and started pulling her across the palace. It was a very, very disheartening scene. Everybody was shocked. Draupadi was crying for help. She turned towards her husband, but since they themselves were slaves of Duryodhana, they were helpless, but they were furious with rage, but couldn't do anything. She saw at Bhishma, Dronacharya, none of them spoke a single word. Everybody were silent. Duryodhana asked her to come and sit on his lap as she was his slave now. She refused to do that. So Duryodhana ordered Dushasana to remove her robe that she was in because it belonged to a royal thing and she was now a slave. So when Dushasana started removing her sari, she didn't know what to do. When she looked at her husbands for help, they didn't come. When she looked at the elders of the Kuru dynasty like Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya, none of them came to the help. At last, not knowing what to do, she surrendered herself to the ultimate Lord, the one and only Lord Krishna. She just took both her hands up, started shouting Krishna's name, took him in his heart, and said, "You take care of me." Lord Krishna did appear in front of Draupadi. He was invisible to all the others present there, but she could feel his presence. As Dushasana kept removing, undressing her robe, the length of the robe kept growing. At one point of time, Dushasana felt so tired and gave up, but not a single piece of cloth came out of Draupadi's body. Everybody was stunned. They understood that it was the Lord's work. So I guess when we all surrender ourselves completely to the Lord, He will take care of us. It just takes time for us to realize that we should surrender. But once we do, He's there to take care of us. After this, everybody were furious in the hall. The Pandavas were extremely angry. They were so angry. Draupadi was burning with fury. Bhima vowed to kill Duryodhana, to smash his thighs and drink the blood from there, and that he would slay Dushasana and all the Kaurava brothers. Draupadi took a vow to tie her hair and open it only when it was smeared with the blood of Duryodhana. They were all that furious, but they were helpless, but so furious on listening to all the angry vows and the promises that were made by the Pandavas and Draupadi. Dhritarashtra became very scared. He was so scared of losing his sons. So he asked everybody to calm down and he granted Draupadi two boons. The first boon she asked was to release her husband and herself as slaves, and the second boon was that they wanted their kingdom back, Indraprastha back, and Dhritarashtra was left with no other option but to give it all back. Now Duryodhana was furious with his father. If they had their kingdom back, then definitely they would wage a war against them and eventually kill them. So again, he planned to call them for one more game of dice, one last game of dice. Now this was completely Yudhishthira's mistake to accept that. But as a Kshatriya ruler, when an opponent king asks you to play, it is your duty, as a Kshatriya, you are entitled to play. So Yudhishthira accepted the offer. It was just one game that would decide everything. If they lost, they would lose their kingdom. They had to go to the forest for 12 years in exile, and the 13th year they would have to be in incognito, Ajnatavasa, where they would have to disguise themselves, and if somebody found out or identified them during that 1 year, they would again have to go back in exile for 12 more years. Yudhishthira accepted to that. They lost, and the Pandavas had to go to the forest in exile for 12 long years. We will see what happens next in our upcoming episodes. If you like this video, then don't forget to like, comment, share it with all your friends and family, and do subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Until I see you next time, be good, do good always. Thank you.